I suppose the first thing to say, really, because I know you've all been in groups and bands and sort of involved in the scene over here for so many years. How did you all come together then?
It's quite interesting, actually. Dave and I were talking about this beforehand and saying that Breesha and Robert and I were in Moot, which was this kind of electro folk thing, but we'd always really wanted bass player and drummer, but we're too afraid to ask. And Dave was saying that...
I love Moot, but I always felt that would be a nice thing to do, to have a rhythm section with Moot, and I was too afraid to ask whether I could get involved as well. And then I think Aalin, Breesha and myself worked on the Mona Douglas CD and DVD together, and that, because we'd worked on that, it gave us an opportunity to think, well, maybe there's something else going to happen. And I also loved the Bartodes, which was Danny, Aalin and Simon. So what I thought would be a great idea would be to have the Bartodes and Moot together. And I didn't think what I was going to do, but that wasn't really bothered. But it seemed like a good idea, and it worked right from day one, didn't it?
It did, yeah.
Yeah. And the thing about it, I absolutely love, Breesha, is that this coming together of these different genres has produced this sort of explosion of styles, but they all sound like one group. They really do. And I love in your PR, I think it's described at one point as a folktastic gypsy jazz groove of a thing, which is wonderful because you've got so many styles in there, haven't you?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, I think every member of the band brings different styles with them, and we all like different things, but we find a common ground, and that's really... It's always exciting because you don't know what sort of mood the next song is going to take. Even if you bring an idea for a song, it could go in any direction. That's great.
And go ahead, Dave.
When we did the CD launch, a friend of mine who hadn't seen us for about a year came along to the launch. And he was saying that when he saw us about a year ago, it was sort of okay, but there was sort of, it's all very disparate, But he said all of a sudden now we have got a sort of a sound of our own, and I thought that was
nice,
really encouraging.
Yeah, and one of the things I love about it as well is that it's almost world music, but also the roots of the Isle of Man run all the way through Clash Vooar, don't they, Aalin?
Yes, I suppose we can't escape our roots. We all love where we live, and it's all around us, and we're all steeped in stories and folklore and the tunes we grew up with, and so that just naturally is the pot we dip into when we're creating something new as well.
And that's the thing, isn't it? Because some is original and some is sort of your own take on existing material, isn't it?
That's right. Quite often there'll be a seed of something from an old poem or an old tune, but we want to reinterpret it in a way that says something about what we're thinking now.
Mm-hmm. And Breesha, I think it's so apt and so lovely that you all are with us today, especially what Aalin has said, having, so sadly lost Brian Stowell over the past couple of days, because he's one of those people that I think we were talking before about how he has made the Manx language and also our folklore and our fairy tales so much more accessible and sort of almost normalised it into our culture, hadn't he?
Well, that's it. He was just such a phenomenal presence, really, within Manx culture. He was the brightest of minds and the most generous of spirits, because he was that sort of person who, no matter what question you asked him, he would give you an answer. He would teach people songs. He would give people guidance and teach them with the language. And lots of key individuals who you now know as teachers, they were mentored by him for many years. And he just did all these things quietly, gave a lot of time, a lot of patience and incredible knowledge. And I think he gave us all the confidence just to do it. And that's what he'd always encourage young musicians through his work for the Celtic Congress. He would be encouraging them, and they'd go off to Brittany and perform somewhere, and they all remember that now, and they've all been commenting. And also people from other language communities, particularly within the Celtic world, but around the world, they all know him, and they all know how helpful he was. So he always had time, and that generosity, making sure that Manx culture is available to everybody, I think was really, really important.